Hey, 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 everybody. Sunday night. It's Heal with Gold night. How are you guys? As you come in, please say hi. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. And let me know who you are in case Marina is here. In case you don't approve StreamYard, I'm not going to see your names. So I hope that everybody by now remember to approve StreamYard and say hello. Say hello as you come in so I can see that you are here. We are going, Marina from Virginia. I have to start remembering. Salud from California. Are you still in Napa, Salud? Penny, hello, Penny. Okay, listen, guys. What we're going to do before I bring in Ali, who I am so excited to share her story with you, is we're going to announce the winners of our book giveaway. So as you know, I'm giving 2 of my books, and Judy is giving a book, and Kathy is giving a book because April gave 2 of hers. Mine weren't here yet. So the winners, they were picked random. Okay, I said the first 2 are going to get my book, and then Judy, and then Kathy, and they were picked random. The first winner is Amanda Van Meter. I'm so excited. She won one of my books. Kathy Mills Marvin won the second book, mine. I need both your addresses. Judy's book goes to Francine Katzen, and Kathy's book goes to Carla Doctor. So you will all receive messages because none of you are here. But without further ado, I'm introducing to you Ali Levine, celebrity stylist, mom to 2 adorable babies that I follow online on Instagram, and I hope that you will all follow as well. And I have interviewed Ali from my blog a few years back, and we met actually through the world of fashion. And I am bringing her on, and she's going to share her story with you. So welcome, Ali.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so happy to see you. I missed you.
Thanks for having me.
It has been way too long like this.
I know, right? I know. Well, the world's been a little crazy, right? We're all like just figuring it out. But no, I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm glad that we figured this out. I was talking to you before we got on. I was like trying to figure out this app. This is pretty cool, but it took me a second to like navigate it.
But it's really cool because we're both here, and I'll show you what happens. I'm gonna show you. You see here on the bottom how.
Oh yeah.
So as people, I'm going to be bringing people on, so
I love it.
You will see the notes because otherwise it's too hard to read. And I'm only gonna bring in when they're not in the middle. When you're not in the middle of
talking. Yeah, no worries.
And at the end, I always allow people to ask you questions. So you'll be able to interact with the amazing people from the Heal with Gold group. Okay.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. I'm very happy to be here and share with everyone. And like Miriam said, we met in the fashion world, and it's so crazy how our worlds have continued to collide, and our messages and our voices and everything have really just had such a synergetic way about them, even though we really did start in the fashion realm, and it was just all about fashion. And I'm somebody stylist, so I was using her amazing clothes. I was wearing her clothes on the red carpet, and it started there. But our bond and our relationship and sharing with each other just grew, and she watched me become a new mom, and now I'm a mom of 2. But she watched me really go through some pretty heavy changes in my career and in my personal life. And it kind of led us down now this road where she's sharing so much of, her own voice and what she's doing with Heal with Gold. And when she asked me to be on to share my story, I said, of course, if you guys check out my social media at Ali Levine Design, I share really rawly and very real about my own journey, about motherhood, just about my own changes within myself. It didn't always used to be that way. It was always like pretty selfies and a lot of glam. So it's been a lot of changes.
So, Ali, why don't we start there? Because I've seen your transformation,
Sure.
and and I loved every step of seeing the whole process. I remember when you told me that you were pregnant with your first daughter. We were talking. I remember where I was. I remember which collection I was doing. It was before my kintsugi collection, and I remember I was so excited and happy for you. And
Oh, thank you.
so much happened.
Thank
So
you.
first, I wanted to share with everybody about the lifestyle of a celebrity stylist. Talk to us a little bit about this strip show that you did for Bravo. And then from there, we'll go to dreams of pregnancy and delivery and so on. So go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So where do you want me to start?
Start a little bit with what does it mean to be a celebrity stylist? What type of lifestyle you're living? Because it's the people here in this group. They're not the people that follow me or are in touch with me for my fashion. To be honest with you, I very, very rarely even talk about it. I'm not here to sell. I'm here to create a community of people, of women, to love each other, help and support each other.
I love that.
Yeah, this is not at all a sales platform. And so I very rarely, I explain why I did kintsugi and why the message of the book has to do with kintsugi, because it's my personal healing journey. So they don't necessarily know what it means to be a celebrity stylist.
Okay, got it.
Okay. The glamour, explain that.
Sure. Okay. So, so what Miriam's sharing is I've been a celebrity stylist for over 10 plus years. I started in the business in fashion. I always knew I wanted to be in fashion, but I didn't really know where I wanted to be. Styling wasn't really a term back when I was in school that, I knew like, hey, it's what I want to do for a job. So I studied fashion merchandising and design, in college, went on to work in retail and in corporate design, and then eventually ended up doing production assisting on movies and really falling in love with that. And didn't even know even then styling really existed. Met a team from LA when I was working on Big Mama's House with Martin Lawrence and a lot of the amazing crew there. And they were from Los Angeles. I am originally from New York. I now live in Los Angeles for the last 10 years. But I was in New York and Atlanta at the time. And I started, working on that project and that team there. And I really just hit it off. And they said to me, what are you doing in New York? And I said, well, I've been doing, costume and fashion there. And I did corporate. And they were like, you need to go to LA. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, for what you want and the more trending and what you're all about. And they told me about styling. And I had kind of then known a little bit about it, but I didn't fully know. And they really informed me and I started educating myself. And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is what I want to do. Because going to the glam of what Miriam was saying, like watching someone like Rachel Zoe, who's like a super well-known stylist who's got, just designer everywhere and it's, traveling everywhere for every client and dressing them and innovating their looks. I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. So off to LA I went, started again from the bottom because I didn't really know anyone. And I started making my connections and relationships and started interning for people like Monica Rose for the Kardashians and Kanye West's old stylist, Rena Lupadora, and Emma Roberts stylist, and just all these different people, and really got submerged into that red carpet, lifestyle of traveling with whoever, told you to travel, going at any hour, didn't matter what was going on, didn't matter if the world was sleeping, like you were out doing what they needed you to do, because like fashion just doesn't sleep, especially when it comes to entertainment. And so I was really living that lifestyle of like, very little sleep, a lot of hours, a lot of work, and a lot of glam and a lot of, celebrity around me. And so from being an intern to an assistant and then starting to get my own clients and getting asked to dress them, before I knew it, all of a sudden my career had taken off. My clients were getting best dressed all over the world. And I was a celebrity stylist. And it just, honestly, it kind of felt like it happened, in a whirlwind moment. I mean, of course, I worked so hard for many years and I interned and I assisted and I did all these things to climb, the ladder. But at the same time, the fame of the celebrities, it came quick. It came really fast. And then it just kept coming. All of a sudden, I had all these celebrities around me asking to dress them. And hey, I saw so-and-so got best dressed. Can you dress me for this? And, getting asked to do all these amazing, tours and travel and fly and have everything, taken care of for you. it was quite the lifestyle. And it was, it was, I don't know how to explain it, honestly. Like, it's, even when I think about it now, because I'm not, as in it as I was, I think about it and I'm like, wow, it was so beautiful, but so intense. It was so almost not reality at all. When you really like take a step back now as a new mom, and I look at it and I'm like, wow, this is like now reality that I live in, which is beautiful. But that was like literally a totally different reality, and they live a different life. And so I was submerged in that for quite some time.
Yeah, and then after you came back, after you had taken a hiatus after the baby was born, we spoke, and I told you that your voice, your physical voice changed.
Yes, you were one of the first people to say that to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but let's say go in order. So then how did it happen that you were in this strip show?
Okay, so everyone always. Okay. So basically, after years of dressing so many different celebrities, and, public figures and just people all over the world, I, of course, knew so many different producers and I've been on so many different sets, especially I was dressing on people on different roles, housewives, Below Deck, Rich Kids. I mean, lots of different shows on E and Bravo and a lot of those platforms. So they knew me, they knew of me. Some of them had made cameo appearances styling on their shows. So it wasn't like I was like a stranger to that part of the industry. And when they were prepping a bunch of their shows, one of the producers reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing this show. Originally, they had said we're doing a fashion show, which was before Stripped. And I was like, yes, okay, let's do it. Like fashion show, fashion competition. Like I'm in, that'd be so much fun. Of course, that didn't get greenlit. Like most of Hollywood, people only see what actually gets made, and so many projects never happen. And so I thought it was going to be that. And then they had my name on, this list. And this new show, Stripped, comes along, and they reach out, and I'm like, so what is this? And they're like, so it's a documentary that's like a spinoff off of what they did in Europe. And, basically we take everything away from you and you get everything back after 21 days. And I'm like, what?
I watched it a little bit, and I love it, yeah. And I don't watch TV, but I went to watch. And I have to tell you something. I don't know how you did it.
It was intense. I'm not gonna lie. It was very, very, very intense. I mean, so first off, when we originally sat down,
hold on a second. Let's tell everybody what happened in that show. Every few days, right? They take.
Yeah, so basically the concept is, okay, so after we sign contracts, everything went along. The concept is everything gets taken away from you. Everything. They come in your home. They literally move out. Like they move everything out. They leave nothing. Home is empty. And then every day you get one item back. So my husband and I were a part of it together as co-stars. So my husband would pick one item. I would pick one item. So we would each get one item each day for 21 days. And why do you choose those items? Like, what do you learn from that? Like, what is it all about? But the thing was, first off, when we first signed the contract, they didn't talk about us doing it naked. Once we were in like full blown, like ready to go, they decided to basically say, hey, you know what? We decided this would make it a lot more vulnerable if we took away your clothes and you started naked so that you really feel the vulnerability. And then you'd be allowed to get them back if you choose for that to be your first thing, or it could be the last thing, whatever you want, but we're going to take it away from you. And then you can start from there. So we didn't expect that. First off, we originally were told probably going to wear like whatever nude tan suits to make it look like you were naked, but you'd still be clothed in some way, shape or form. And then it was, oh no, we actually really want the vulnerability factor. This is a docu-reality. This is not just like reality show. We want to see the vulnerability of taking your clothes away. So that was pretty intense. I'll never forget having to call my dad and tell him that was going to happen. He was horrified. Horrified. And now that I'm a mom, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. So my poor dad, my poor mom, and my husband's parents, my in-laws, they were like, what? This is happening? What? So I'll never forget when the trailers ran and everybody was like calling and texting us and we're like, oh my God, there you are running naked across the street. And I'm like, yeah, like with like leaves on. Oh, that's the thing too. So like if you watch the show,
I remember
the trailers, they like told us you couldn't be like naked, like because of being naked out in public. So it was like when we were out in public, if you didn't have your clothes, you had to cover yourself. So we used leaves, we used boxes, anything you could imagine that we could get our hands on outside, we had it covered. And so the purpose of it was to have everything taken away from you for 21 days. What do you realize, when those things are taken away? What do you learn during this experience when everything is gone? And like, what does being stripped teach you? Like, what do you learn? So that was their concept of the show.
Listen, it's an incredible message. I don't know how you did it, but you ended up pregnant. So it couldn't have been so bad.
It was hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. They were nice to not show all of my meltdowns.
No,
They could have showed a lot more.
I remember, like, you didn't have a toothbrush.
Yes. Oh, no toothbrush, no hairbrush, no makeup, nothing. People don't realize, like, it literally is nothing. So that they give you toilet paper, water, and like military, like MRE rations, so that you're like eating something. Other than that, that's it.
You're very courageous. I'll tell you why, Ali, because you went from being a celebrity stylist to taking. If I was taken away, I rotate between the 5 outfits that I have that I took from my collection.
Yeah.
I'm not a shopper. I'm simple. I'm at my computer all day. But
Yeah.
you were in that world of dressing, of being beautiful, of paying attention to, okay. You're pregnant, and then you have a million dreams about that natural birth. I remember you sharing it with me. You wanted to have a birth in water, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was your dream.
Yep.
Tell me. So.
Oh yeah. So fast forward. So we get pregnant right after filming Stripped. So they shared that. If you watch the show, they show the pregnant and everything. And so, I get pregnant, and I do believe that pregnancy came because of the fact that when you watch Stripped, we could still pick it up on streaming apps, but when you watch it, they ask us a lot about like, what is it that, I'm learning, and like, how am I handling things of, being away from all the glam and everything. And it was really hard for me. And one of the things that we really talked about was the fact that I was putting my, personal life on hold to continue to be in the celebrity world and celebrity life of being a celebrity stylist, because I didn't want to stop. I wanted to keep going. And my husband really wanted to have children. And I knew one day down the road I would, but I was just like back burner. I just like wasn't in the space to do it. And once we went through Stripped, it opened my eyes up completely, and I saw how much I was kind of missing in my personal life. And I think because we kept talking about it, and that was like one of the main conversations on the show of like, how come we don't have a baby? How come you want to wait? Like all these things. I really believe because we kept talking about it so much, God, universe, whatever you believe, I think gave it to me right after, because they were like, okay, she's been talking about it. Like whether she realizes it or not, in some way, shape or form, she's ready. So there it was. It was very much like, oh my gosh, this is happening. Like we talked about it and then it happened. So it was very much kind of a surprise. And then, so was the rest of the journey with Amelia. So as I shared with Miriam and many others, I really wanted a natural birth. Not only just natural vaginal, but like natural, no drugs. I'm a very natural person. I like things more natural, homeopathic. I really am more about nature versus, man this, man that. And so for me, it was like water birth, as natural as possible, vaginal, all these things that like I wrote down that I really wanted, with like the music and to the flowers in the tub and like just the whole thing. And so Amelia, first off, came late. I thought like she would come like, right at 38, 39 weeks, like 40 weeks max. And she was at almost 41 weeks. She, after I did have a midwife, I did go through the whole process of trying to labor in the tub, started at home, then went to my midwife's birth, center. And I was able to handle it as far as like physically handle it with the actual natural birth situation. I was 30 hours unmedicated, able to get through it with my doula and my midwife, my husband being my support. But sadly, after 30 hours and then getting in the tub and trying to push Amelia down further, my midwife was like, well, she's not progressing past 6 centimeters, and it's just not looking good for her to be the way she is. Like, she's fine. They checked her heart, they checked mine, everything was fine. But my midwife was like, something's just not happening. And I know you don't want to hear this, but like, I think we should go to the hospital for interventions. And that was the last thing I wanted to hear. Because after, first off, the whole mindset, like Miriam was saying from the beginning, was about, natural and what I wanted and what I set up and this and that. And then also then going through it and being natural for 30 hours at the birth center, working so hard to get to where I was. The fact that I was only at like 6.5 centimeters, and then she wasn't coming and progressing the birth canal was like, it was just such a blow. It was like, what do you mean? Like, I just want to stay here in the tub and keep pushing. And that's what I said. And they were like, I really think we should go get interventions. It's really important. And, she pulled my husband out of the room and talked to him, of course, because he's, my everything. And, I sat with him and he was like, look, I know it's not what you want to hear, but we want to make sure you're safe. We want to make sure she's safe. And so we need to, pack up and go to the hospital. So luckily everything was not an emergency. We called the doctor that was, basically like my backup doctor to my midwife. And we went to the hospital and I arrived there and they checked me and they were like, she's good. You're good. What do you want to do? And I turned to my midwife and I said, well, I want to keep going. But at that point, because I had left, the birth center, and I had left all the natural music and being on the ball and being in the shower and all the natural, environment I had to thrive being unmedicated and being natural, I didn't have anymore. It was bright lights. It was people everywhere. It was loud. It just wasn't anything what I was prepared for. So I couldn't handle being unmedicated anymore. And so I was put on Pitocin because they wanted to try to push Amelia further down because they could see that she not stuck, but she wasn't progressing. And so they were like, we want to kind of amp this up and try to get her going. So they put the Pitocin and I couldn't handle it. They put it like, I guess like a 15, whatever the highest is. And I really couldn't handle it. I was really struggling. And I honestly felt like it was a shock to my system. Like when I think about it now too, I'm like, I went from like completely natural to being on like full blown heavy drugs. And it was a shock, I think, to me mentally, physically, like emotionally, all around. So then they gave me an epidural because I couldn't handle the Pitocin. And then I just couldn't feel anything anymore. I literally was like, I can't feel the contractions. I can't feel my body. I can't feel her. Again, I just went from like feeling everything to like nothing. And it just felt so weird. So I kept going and going. And then my doctor came in and he was like, well, you're almost at 40 hours. Like, she's progressed a little bit. I think I was at like 8.5, almost 9 at that point. And he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, very stubborn. And I was like, I want to keep going. I want to make this happen as best I can. And he was like, okay, well, everything's fine on the monitor, so I'll let you keep going. He was really, honestly, like wonderful because most doctors would just said no. And he could see everything was fine. So he honored my wishes. My midwife was still there. And he was like, okay, we'll keep going. So a couple hours later, I was really, really going for it this time. And I'm pushing. And and she's coming down the birth canal. And my doctor's saying, she keeps coming back up. Like 2 times she went down and like literally almost like where she would have came out and she shot back up. And that happened twice. And he was like, okay, he's like, sorry, I don't like that she's come down and she's shooting back up. I know you really don't want to hear this, but like in the next few hours here, we're going to have to make a decision. So I just want you to prepare yourself. So he stepped out. My husband sat with me. It was just the two of us. My midwife left. My doula left. It was just us. And my husband turned to me and he said, what do you want to do? It's coming on 42 hours. You're exhausted. Amelia's not maybe doing what we thought she was going to do. My husband's a very logical person. It's very like, Justin's an accountant in production in the industry. And he's very much like, here's this and here's that. Whereas I'm way more of a dreamer and I'm like, but this could happen and that could happen. And so, he's like, look, this is what's happening. This is where we are. What do you want to do? And so I said to him, well, I want to keep going. And he was like, okay, but babe, if you keep going and in like 5 hours when they call it, you have to have a C-section. Are you really like going to want to wait that long? Or do you want to just meet her now and like be able to rest? And of course, like I still wanted to keep going. But when he said, do you want to meet her now? I started bawling my eyes out. I'm like, really? Like that's how you're going to put it to me? Like, I've been wanting to meet her this whole time. It was like, it was so hard for me to make that decision. And I don't say that lightly because I know a lot of people choose that and that's absolutely fine. But for me personally, it was a really hard decision for me to make, especially because I had set myself up for something completely different in my mindset, in my hypnobirthing I was studying and all the things I was doing outside of, this. And so, 42 hours came and we told them we would do the C-section, and, went back and had a C-section. And, thank God it was quick. My doctor was amazing. It was like all of 7 minutes and she was there. So it wasn't, as I know a lot of people have had very traumatic C-sections. And so I'm very grateful for, as much as the whole experience was traumatic, my C-section in that sense was not. And my, they put her right on my chest. The minute, they took her out, which I really appreciated because I begged them for that, because that's what I wanted, obviously from the water, for her to be right on me. And so they honored that and let me have that moment with her before, taking her away and everything. And my husband was right there and, held my hand, and, like they really tried to make it what they could, for what it was. But it was really hard. And I just remember like being, wheeled into my postpartum room after having her. And I was so excited to meet her, of course, and hold her. But in that moment, I just felt like so disappointed, like just so let down, so disappointed in my body, in myself, and just in everything. Like it was just like, oh my gosh, why couldn't I do it? Like, why didn't it happen? And it was just so discouraging for me. And it was just, it was really heavy, to be honest. In the moment, my husband said he remembers, like, even though I was so happy to hold Amelia and I was so like overjoyed and so emotional, he said, like, when I would look at you just as you, like, you looked so down and you looked so upset. And he was like, it broke my heart because, like, I know that's what you wanted, but like, it just didn't happen that way. And of course, I was so grateful that she was okay and she was healthy and she was fine and I was fine. And like, I know some people say that, and it wasn't about that. It was just about the fact that, for me, like you said from the beginning, it was what I set out to do. And it was the way I framed my mind around it and what I believed was going to happen. It just didn't happen. And that, I think,
Ali, most of the disappointments that we have in life, it's because the reality doesn't match our expectations.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is. We go through life hoping, foreseeing, and expecting something, and we get why, and we're not prepared emotionally for what we got because we.
That's right. Well, and you're like, and I think too, absolutely, and I think too, when it's your birth plan as well, you're like married to it. Like you know what I mean? Like for me, it was like there were no non-negotiables. This is what it was, and that's how it was going to be. You know what I mean? And then like fast forward to my second daughter's birth, I was very like aware of that this time and was like, okay, I want these things, but like this could change. So like if that doesn't happen, then like on my birth preference chart, we'll write this can happen instead. And if this doesn't happen, and it was way more like loose and open and flowing. And I truly believe like there is no coincidence that my daughter Arlie aligned with this pandemic, because I think this was a very teaching year for all of us, obviously, but like me, especially for personal growth. Like I truly believe like she aligned and chose this time for a reason. Like I completely understand now why she was born into a pandemic. Like it makes so much sense to me, because for me, I had to learn to let go of so many things. My birth plan changed every week. First in the beginning, it was, okay, so, she might come early because she was looking like she was going to come early, which was crazy since Amelia was so late. And they were like, she might come early. And if she comes early, we're going to have to, hold her and this and that because of what's going on. And you won't be able to stay with her and da da da. And then like, finally I got past the regular, marks I was supposed to. And they were like, okay, it's looking good, but now your husband can't be here because of COVID and da da da, And so I was like, okay, now my husband's not going to be there. And, and then I, was like losing my mind in that. And then I was discussing maybe having a home birth because I didn't want to not have my husband and, all these things. And it was like back and forth. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks before Arlie came, she was 2 weeks late. 2 weeks before they changed the rules, Justin could be back in the hospital. And then I was like, okay, back to my original doctor. It was like the most roller coaster all over the place. So I truly believe she chose that because I had to learn what you were saying, to let go, to not be locked into reality, into a certain this is what's going to be. And it was a very teaching birth for me and a very healing birth at that.
Let's go back to after Amelia, because you came home, delicious baby, and slowly but surely you were getting sadder and sadder, more and more, until you realized that this is serious, that this is not just, it's going to go away.
Right. It's not just baby blues. Right.
So I remember our interview, which is a few years old, right? Amelia is what, 2?
Amelia is 2. Yeah. Almost 2.5.
2.5. Our interview was somewhat after she was born,
Yeah.
and I remember the details. I didn't have to go back and read it because it really, I had my whole trauma with my four daughters, but I remember you saying how slowly but surely everybody realized that this was not
Yeah.
going to go away,
Oh,
and
yeah. Well,
prevention.
yeah. Right. Yeah. So yeah, so going back to after having Amelia, so obviously first of all, I'm a new mom. So everything is just new and crazy for anyone that, has been a mother. It's crazy when you first start out. You have no idea what you're doing or what's going on and what's normal, what's not normal, and all these things. And, and for me, being that I am a celebrity stylist, I live in the public eye for the most part. And I watch everything on social media and I share so much on social media. It was so hard for me, even just with that being said, having all of that in my face and everybody like, oh, what's going on? How are you doing? Are you coming back to set? A couple weeks later, oh, what, how's your body? How's this? How's that? You bounced back yet? It was like, oh my gosh, like I just had a baby. And like in my mind, again, I was like, oh, I'll bounce back. I'll go right back to set. I'll bring my baby on set with me. No big
Just like
deal.
on Instagram,
Yeah.
right? Just
Right.
like on Instagram, all these gorgeous moms that
Yes.
are like back to size 0 the next day.
Right. Back to size 0. No big deal. Everything's, all good. And it was like, first off, I had a C-section after 42 hours of labor. So my body basically did both in a sense. And my recovery was hard. I mean, first off, I, couldn't get out of bed for the first 3 weeks. I just could not move my body except for going to the bathroom, obviously, and like doing little things. I didn't even go up down my own stairs. My mom, my mother-in-law were constantly feeding me and bringing me up food and, taking care of me because I just didn't have the strength to really get out of bed. And Amelia wouldn't latch at first, and I was trying to breastfeed, and she wouldn't latch. And it was because my milk was late, because I guess a lot of times when you have a C-section, if your placenta doesn't pass naturally through the birth canal, you can have your milk be delayed, because that is what my doctor, my midwife told me. And so my milk was late. It was 10 days late. I guess a lot of moms have milk be late, which I didn't know. And so I wasn't prepared. So, I was pumping like crazy for the first 10 days, which was exhausting. Just trying to get her milk and trying to get her colostrum. And so we were feeding her with my husband was using like one of those Dopplers to feed her because she wasn't like ready to take a bottle yet. And so to make sure she was getting enough and everything, and she was gaining, she was healthy, she was fine, thank God. But it was still like, for me, another box I couldn't check. It was like, okay, didn't get the vaginal birth. Okay, C-section. Okay, can't breastfeed. Check. It was like all this thing. Body didn't bounce back. Check. It was like just like uncheck that box, uncheck that box, uncheck that box. And so it became like this like just mountain of things that like I couldn't even like handle anymore. It was like every single thing I wanted, or and then cystic acne happened for me because they believe a combination of my depression and my traumatic C-section. My, a lot of times they say what's going on inside sometimes comes out outside. And so for me, that was the case. And I had cystic acne and I was covered, and I had never experienced that before, not even as a young teenager. I had some breakout, but nothing like that. And my whole like, cheeks and side and everything was just covered. And it was like so upsetting, and to just see that in the mirror and look at that. And, and it sounds terrible, but I would just talk terrible to myself, because it was like, I'd look at my body, I look at my face, I just look at everything. And even though I was like madly in love with Amelia, that was kind of the crazy part of it all, because I know for a lot of people, postpartum depression, they have a disconnect with the baby. For me, I didn't. I was like super obsessed with her and enamored with her. And it was when I was away from her, whether she was napping or I was just taking a bath, or if I was just doing anything by myself that didn't have her, I didn't have purpose. It was like I would just cry and cry and cry, or I would be angry at myself, or I would shame myself, or just all kinds of things. And then as soon as I had her in front of me, I was happy again and everything was good. But as soon as she was away from me, it was like, what am I doing? And what's wrong with you? And it was just like the words and the stuff I would say to myself was disgusting. And so at first, just like anyone else, I thought it was just baby blues. I thought, okay, well, I'm a new mom and this is what it is, and I'm figuring it out. But then it just kept getting darker. It was like it just continued and continued and continued. And I wasn't ready to face it. And my mother-in-law started really seeing it when she was visiting me around like 3.5 months, helping a lot with Amelia. And so I could go do work and go do what I need to do. And then I would go to work, and then I would be like happy for that moment that I was on set. And then I'd be like depressed all of a sudden afterwards. And I'd be super upset and wouldn't want to be there. And then I come home and I'd be so happy to see her, but then I'd be depressed again. Like it was just this vicious cycle of like up and down. And then my husband would be like, go get a massage, or like go get your nails done, like things that I like to do to pamper myself. And so I would go do those things and I'd be happy, and then I'd be upset again. And so it was just like this constant back and forth that I no longer was like, okay, this is just something that, like you said, is temporary and going away. And I think that was the first step, is like I wasn't prepared to even say like I am going through postpartum depression or I'm depressed. Because anyone that knows me or has followed me knows I'm a pretty happy person, and I'm like always trying to make other people happy, and I try to smile a lot, and I always try to like be that positive person. So I couldn't really fathom that like I was actually in a depressive state or something like that. So my husband, one night we were in bed, I want to say, I mean, it was maybe like 2.5, 3 months. And he was talking to me just about different things with the baby and me being a mom. And I looked at him and I said, I just feel like I'm mourning the death of me. And he was like, it was like this. And for me, Miriam, I felt like a weight was lifted when I said that. Like for me, I felt like I had grabbed a glass of wine and just like kind of vented out what I needed to say. And I felt like kind of better, not fully, but like in the moment felt a little bit better. And he looked at me and he was like, okay, that's not okay. And he's like, it's fine you said that, but like, it's not okay that you feel that way. And I was like, it's fine. I just needed to get it out and just needed to vent. And he was like, no, there's something. And that I think was for him the moment where he realized this is not going away. This is not just something. And then my best friend around me was saying it to me too, and my other best friend in New York, and my certain family members, and just different people around me that knew something was going on and something wasn't right.
So let's talk about all the different activities, because you shared with me that you did meditation.
Mm-hmm.
You implemented a lot of the holistic way
Mm-hmm.
to get yourself out of that dark period, right?
So thank you for asking. So, once I kind of knew or had an idea what was happening, I reached out to my team, my midwife. I reached out to my doctor. Of course, my doctor wanted to put me on, pills. And I said to him, look, that's not how I really roll. I appreciate if I need it, that they're there, and I will be in touch with you. But right now, it's not where I'm at. And so I reached out to my midwife and I said, what can I do? And she's like, well, first step, if you know this is how you're feeling, then let's get you help and let's get you in front of someone who can talk to you. So I had my doula team actually had a postpartum team on it, and they had a postpartum specialist, and she sat down with me and we did my first, session, and we just talked through, and it was like 5 hours long. And the stuff that came out and the conversations and how much I didn't realize I was burying, and just so much, it was like, whew, that was just one session, but it was so apparent then to me that I couldn't hide from it anymore, that it was really there and it was really real, and I was really living in it, and I needed to work on it. And so she then said, okay, we're going to start doing, sessions, certain amounts of times. What else we can do? She knew I was getting into meditation. I was in meditation a lot when I was pregnant with Amelia. That was really when I fell into meditation. So she was like, we're going to get you back into meditation. I'm going to give you certain things to listen to work through. We did cognitive therapy. We did a lot of writing. We did a lot of visualization exercises. And also, and I know this is a very controversial medicine, if you will, but we did CBD. And for me, CBD really helped, and it really worked. And we did CBD tincture, certain drops that my doctor and my midwife approved. We did certain CBD lotions and balms on my body to calm my whole body down, and all of those different things. Journaling, just all those different types of practices really helped me over time, and doing them daily and being very mindful of actually continuing to work on it every day, and not just have it be something you do once in a while, but actually really be mindful and do it. After about 10 months, 11 months later, I started finally feeling like Ali again. I started finally finding a light at the end of the tunnel.
I knew Ali.
Oh, for sure I knew Ali. Oh, yeah.
Ali, because I reached out to you when you came back full force on Instagram, I called you and I said, Ali, your physical voice, like your voice, forget about the message. The message that you were portraying in the beginning was of a celebrity stylist.
Oh yeah.
And then the message was of a mom. So the message changed, but your physical voice changed. And when I told you that, you said that I was not the only one that said that.
Yeah. A lot of people, it was so interesting when you said that to me. A lot of people said to me, they were like, you just sound so different. You look different. Like, even though you look the same, like you look different. There's something about you. Even my best friends that have been around me at every celebrity event, every red carpet, one of my gay best friends who was like, who's with me through everything. And he was like, I love you, but like, I love this version of you the most. Like, I've known you for over a decade. He's one of the first people I became friends with when I moved to Los Angeles. And we kind of grew our careers together and did a ton of celebrities together. And he was like, there's just something about you since you got into motherhood and everything. Like, it's crazy. He's like, I don't even know how to explain it, but there's just something different. And so, him and many other people and you had shared that with me. And it was funny because I don't think I really realized it in the beginning. In the beginning, it was more just like, I just felt like I was just kind of, I guess, going through the motions and just trying to work on things for myself and make sure I was healthy and I could be good for me and good for my daughter and good for my family and everything. But as time went on and I started really not only doing the work, but then really being mindful of like what was happening and seeing it kind of from the outside of myself, I started realizing like, wow, yeah, I have kind of changed and I have evolved as a person. And this is kind of like a rebirth. A lot of people say you like are reborn after you have your baby or your babies. And I get it now. Like, it really is like a rebirth. And I feel like that even after Arlie, like after each birth, you're like reborn in a sense.
It was a complete transformation, and it was very interesting because there are a lot of mom
Mhm.
bloggers. There's a lot
Mhm.
of moms on Instagram.
Oh,
But
sure. Oh, yeah.
right, there's a lot. But you came back as the real mom. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
came back raw, genuine, authentic. You came in saying, okay, hold on. I am the first one to say that I love the celebrity life, but mom, this is mom. This is the real space for real moms.
Yeah.
What I'm curious to know, super curious, because we never spoke about that, was how did your followers react? Because your original followers were following you for
Yeah.
that celebrity, fancy, gorgeous, always on the red carpet persona. And suddenly you're this real mom. Did these people leave and you get new people? Or did these people end up staying and interacting with you? Like, what
No,
happened?
yeah, it's a good question. So I signed off social media when I was going through postpartum depression. First off, that was a really hard decision to make, being that was part of my career and part of my sharing. But my doctor, my midwife, my postpartum specialist, everybody was like, you need to sign off. You need to take a break. You need to like go dark for a moment and allow yourself to like step away so that, you can like breathe and heal. And I didn't want to at first because that was my world. And I was like, how am I going to step away from social media? But then I realized like it was really kind of a dark place for me. It was no longer a place that was making me happy because I was comparing myself constantly to all those Instagram moms who put out that they're perfect and their perfect bodies and this, that. And it's like, no shame. Everybody, you do you. But for me, it was really hurting me. And so I had to sign off. And I did for about 2 months. And when I came back, like you said, it was like this new transform. One of the first posts I posted, I remember, was like very raw, no makeup, like very much just in my feelings, really vulnerable. And I remember like watching my following drop dramatically after I did it.
I
And
imagine that.
it was so hard to like look at my following and just like watch it drop and be like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like, what did I just do? And I remember like sitting there and like praying and meditating and being like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It'll figure itself out, or I'll find something else, or whatever it'll be. And sure enough, after like probably a month or so, people started kind of coming around me that were new moms or moms to be, or even older moms who like felt like they had lived through my own story. And they were like, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being so real. At that time too, I was starting to launch my podcast, which was the beginning of my journey of sharing postpartum. And my first episode is Mourning the Death of Me, and sharing what those feelings felt like and how that was. And I realized it started being cathartically healing for me. Like I started not only sharing my story to help others, but it was healing myself because I was sharing so much of myself. And I wasn't even aware of that. At first, it was just like, well, I'm just going to use it to vent and get things out. But then I started sharing so much that all of a sudden I was healing myself from doing that. And I was healing others in the process. And people were reaching out to me and saying, thank you for sharing that. I didn't even know I was going through postpartum depression because people told me it was the baby blues. But now listening to your story, I realize it is. And, and all these different things. And you're like, wow, I'm helping other people. And a beautiful thing happened after I lost so many followers. I think I lost almost 15,000 followers, something like that. After that happened, over time, I started gaining like by the thousands, just people coming around me and mom companies reaching out and saying, hey, would you want us to feature you on our blog and share your story? And all of a sudden I had all these people around me asking, like you included, to share my story about my birth and my daughter and what happened and all these things. And People Magazine did a huge story on me, and Self did an interview about, loving yourself despite how things may go. And all these things that like I never expected to happen or share so vulnerably, being that I was always sharing glam and celebrity. And it was almost like the universe was like, okay, well, here's this next chapter, and just kind of flowed me through it. And I felt like I kind of just followed whatever I had to follow. And I was really grateful that my community grew and my followers grew. But it was kind of beautiful because those that stuck with me from the beginning, because there are some, they have told me that like they weren't sure at first and they wanted to unfollow, but then they're glad they stuck around because now they've gotten so much more of me and they can relate to me in other ways other than motherhood. But, my new followers have become like such a family to me. Like my Instagram is no longer a place where years ago it was like the glam and celebrity and it was cool, but it was like very much superficial, like very much just surface. And now I have like real friends and community, and I care about my followers, and I care about, who's talking to me and who's sharing their message with me. And I connect with them on such a level that it's like, honestly, I never would have imagined if you told me years ago this is where I would be. I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like it's wild, but it's so beautiful. And it's been such a transformation, not just with myself, but like everyone else that has followed me and everyone else that I talk to, and I get to help them and share with them. And it's just beautiful. Same with my podcast. It's community I built around me is amazing.
That's incredible. I want you afterwards, you'll email me the podcast. And
oh, for sure. Yeah. It's everything with Ali Levine. I'll send you all the links and everything.
Yes, and if I can put it in the group, and then everybody can, whoever is interested can come and look.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of members in the group that are from Europe and Australia. They watch it on replay because for them it's the middle of the night, so they will watch. So they will be able to find you. Ali, I think that your story is incredible because at the end of the day, story of hope in so many levels. And I told the group when I was bringing you, and I said, this is going to be postpartum, but I spoke at the beginning of the week in the group and I said, but this is not a message just for postpartum. This is a message about healing. This is a message of finding your message after you experience a mess, right? It's the same that happened to me. It's the same that happened to so many people in our group that end up voicing.
And healing is so important. Like, I don't think people realize, like, when you heal, like you say, heal with gold, when you heal yourself, when you really do the work, things change so dramatically in your life, but not only your life, but like others' lives. And you actually affect that. And you actually have, that chain reaction. And something I realized, especially during 2020 right now, is like, we are all so connected. Like as a collective, like we really are so connected, and we really are here for each other, to help each other, to heal each other, to evolve each other. And I have experienced so much of that from sharing my story and being more vulnerable and being more open about sharing my postpartum depression and everything I went through, because it's helping others and it's healing them. And then the more I help heal others, the more I continue to heal myself.
Listen, in my book, the 10th golden nugget is kindness. It's when you do for others, when you get out of your own problem and you become of service, that there's no healing that matches,
It's true. It's beautiful.
Right? It's true. I want to know if anybody in the group has any questions for Ali. So if anybody who is live wants to ask anything, now is your
time. I'm an open book, truly.
Listen, we spoke about strips, so we can talk about anything now. Postpartum happened to me after my second child. I was only 17 when I had the first, and they were only 14 months apart. My daughter had a little jaundice, So we
Oh,
had to be separated while she was under lamps. I was taking care of a toddler, and
wow.
then my hormones went crazy.
Yes, hormones are, whew.
I still don't know how I got through it.
Well, you're a warrior,
Yeah,
first off. And secondly, yeah, hormones. I feel like nobody like talks like, yeah, we have conversation about hormones, but nobody talks about like how crazy our hormones are and like what they can actually do to our bodies, to our minds, to like everything. Like we just blame it. Like I feel like the system like that we have just blames it on like, oh, this is just what happened. But it's like, no, like your body actually changes so much. Like not only do you change when you have a baby and you're actually reborn, but like your hormones and everything is completely just changed. And you're supposed to just like, snap back like nothing happened. And it's like, no, that's just not reality.
yeah.
So good for you.
I
You
had
know,
I had HG 4 times. You know what HG?
wow.
Yeah,
Yep.
hyperemesis gravidae. 4% of women have it.
Yeah.
It's not so common.
Yeah. Right.
I had it 4 times. You know, most people that have it don't have
Yeah.
more than one kid. But it's
Wow.
it's hormone related.
Yeah. It's hormone related. Yeah.
And yeah, we don't know yet enough about that.
Of course. Yeah.
How
Yeah. But good for, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, good for you for getting through it and being able to, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot, but
Oh, it was 8 months in bed with all the kids. So each
yeah.
one of them. So I always
Right.
say I had a sentence, like I was in jail. I was in my bed for
Yeah. I bet. No kidding.
And that's
Yes, that failure feeling takes over. Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel that so, I mean, that's exactly how I felt. It was like this feeling of failure of not being able to birth the way I thought I was going to be able to birth, that my body failed me, my mind failed me, I failed me. Like it was so intense. And that feeling of failure, it does that negative energy, that, negative connotation of what failure is to so many of us, it can just consume you. And
right.
I
You
feel
said, you said something that I also talk in my book about. Well, my book was written based on all the women that I interviewed, including you. But speaking badly to yourself,
oh my gosh, the shame, it's terrible.
Yes,
I do so much of that. So much of that.
Something that needs to stop. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm most of the time I'm good with that. Sometimes I say to myself, why did I have to gain so much weight? And I do say that sometimes.
Yeah, you're human. We're all human.
Yeah, but overall, I am proud of what I have accomplished, and I give myself grace for what for what I can't do. But I know a lot of people that shame themselves so much, and
they do. Yeah. And it's not a healthy way to live. And I think sometimes our society kind of teaches us to shame ourselves, and we have to like really like look on the outside and like really be like, okay, forget what's going on outside. Like I've been teaching myself.
Marina, you're beautiful. Thank you, Marina.
Oh, so sweet. Yes, she's right. But, I think that I had to teach myself so much during this pandemic, especially of like the outside world doesn't have to match my inside. I can still be in a place of, love and light, and of course feel things going on the outside, but not have it match my inside. And that goes back to, again, the shaming and all of that. Like I had to sit there with myself, especially after my postpartum depression, and say to myself, like, okay, your body is not what you thought it was going to be, but it's still beautiful, and it still gave you your baby, and it's still doing all these amazing things. And now you're breastfeeding, and now this is happening, and now that's happening. And remind myself of like the wins that were happening with my body, even though it wasn't what I thought my body was going to look like or probably will ever look like again. And so I had to really like swallow that and take that in and tell myself like not to shame myself. And I one of my posts I recently did on my social media, on my Instagram, I said, I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I was holding Arlie, my second, now baby is 5 months, and I was holding her, and she was looking at me, and she was just like looking at me in awe. And I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm like, look at my stomach and this, that, and the whole thing. And I had to stop myself and say, Ali, you had her 5 months ago. And by the way, the baby, like, right before that, like, what do you expect your body to do? And I had to really like talk myself through the emotions and what I was feeling and what I was seeing. And I said in that post, our babies, our children, they look at us like so miraculously because we're so amazing to them, but yet we don't look at ourselves that way. And it's like, you have to remind yourself how like they look at you, because how they look at you is what is the purest form of you.
That's right. That's so right. Ali, you're beautiful inside and out.
Thank
And
you. So are you.
you're such a role model. You know,
Oh,
I love your transformation. I love your I don't love that you have to suffer to get there.
of course. And me either. But you know what? I tell everyone when they ask me about it, I'm like, I definitely wouldn't wish this on anyone. But for me, it was obviously part of my journey. It was part of my story. And I am thankful that because of going through that, I am in a much better place in my personal life, in my family life, in my own sense of self as a mother. I really believe it really got me to that next level of where I need to be. And as much as it was so hard, I believe it really was handed to me for a reason.
Mhm. So I wanted to ask you what's next. The problem with what's next is that this pandemic is not.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's
Well,
not.
I've been working as much as I can, from home, obviously. So I'm doing a lot of different like lives like this, when people ask me to come on and share different stories or just be inspiring and encourage. I'm, very much content creator on my Instagram. So I'm always creating content. So I have a lot of exciting brand campaigns coming up this next month that I'm working on content for that you can look out for. I work with brands anywhere from like, motherhood, lifestyle, fashion, health, beauty, all those different, places, in the space. So I'm always creating content around that. I do have some TV segments coming up this month that I'm really excited about on like Las Vegas Now, that I'm going to be doing from home, remote, that will be streaming into the studio, as well as San Diego. So I'm excited about that. So I'm prepping some holiday content right now and be filming that in the next week or so here. And I've got some other collaborations in the works that I'm not allowed to share just yet. But I'm trying to keep. I'm trying to
Just to keep us all very.
um,
I need to talk to you to see if you can recommend my book.
for sure. Yeah, we'll have to chat for
We need to
sure.
talk.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to keep it moving as much as possible as far as opportunities go. And I've honestly really used this pandemic and this time to thank you so much, Penny. Thank you for joining. And oh my God, your little one's so cute with the picture. Thank you. I really try to use this time to really go within, to be honest, like further meditate, further really work on myself, really take myself off of autopilot because I've been on such an autopilot, even as becoming a new mom, and a mom of two. I still was working on my phone. And I really have used this time to be really smart about my time and really like write out what I need to do and like what doesn't have to get done until later. I'm working on a revamp of my website. Oh, is Arlie need me? I'm working on a revamp of my website. Here,
Oh, let's see. Who's that?
Arlie, say hi.
Oh,
Hello. Hi. That's my cue. I'm using this time to really, go within to work on myself, but also to spend time with the girls, and really family life and really enjoy it because it's, goes so fast, obviously. And I'm, using it to just revamp myself. I'm rebranding right now just overall because of my story and how much has changed. So my website will be different next month or so here. There'll be some new rebranding stuff from me coming soon. And I'm excited. It's a whole new chapter. I feel like 2020 in a sense is a blessing, even though I know it's been very hard for all of us. It's a really, thank you. Thank you for saying she's beautiful. It's a true blessing. I really truly believe that. I think if we all really allow ourselves to go within and use this time to say, how do I maybe change things I don't like that are going on in my life? Or how do I, make things better? How do I improve a certain area or whatever it might be? Or how do I start new? 2020 has kind of given us that permission. And so I've been using that for myself and for my family.
Fantastic. I'm so happy that you're in my life.
Yes, I feel the same. And thank you so much for having me. This was beautiful. And I love your message. And I'm so honored to be a part of your book. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gina, for tuning in. Thank you so much for having me. And, this was beautiful.
Thank you. Send me all of the information. We'll share it with the group and we'll stay in touch.
All right, Miriam. Have a beautiful Sunday. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. And I'll send you all my info to follow. Thank you.
Have a great Sunday, everybody. Bye-bye.